One of the most vocal critics of the $600 million grant to the Cleveland Browns for a dome stadium development in Brook Park says he feels lawmakers have done an end run around him and other local officials across the state. The Haslam Sports Group made the argument to lawmakers that the dome stadium and surrounding retail and housing would generate hundreds of millions of dollars in tax revenue on what will be a year-round, multi-billion-dollar facility and the only domed stadium in Ohio. But for Cuyahoga County Executive Chris Ronayne, it's not just the $600 million grant for the Browns to move 12 miles outside of downtown Cleveland. It's a last-minute change in state law that passed in 1996 that banned teams that play in publicly funded stadiums from moving, as Art Modell did when he owned the Browns and moved them to Baltimore, Maryland. Ronayne says these things together are a blow to officials and leaders in communities across the state.
This is a difficult day for localities in Ohio. You know, our communities look for partnerships with their state representatives and senators. And we look for that both from, the state and also the federal government. And right now we're feeling very alone. We're feeling like a lot of the budget impacts from the state of Ohio are going to end up on the shoulders of counties and our 88 counties throughout Ohio, and certainly our communities within them. You name it, we're paying for it. And for us, a great irony in this here up in Cleveland is the large shell out of a large amount of funds out of unclaimed funds to Haslam Sports Group to build the Brown Stadium out in Brook Park. We've looked at that locally as a boondoggle, but if I was another citizen in another county of Ohio, I would be rather upset with my legislature for ushering that one through. I mean, it seemed done, in a way that wasn't ultimately a conversation with the electorate. It certainly was done in a way that seemed to end run the local voice, like mine, the mayor of the city of Cleveland, and others. And it seemed done in a way that just happened more or less just a conversation of a few, of buying for a few to benefit just one, and that's Haslam Sports Group. I mean, we feel that we've seen this as the kind of stripping away of Bill and Betty Buckeyes' dollars, literally their unclaimed funds, to give to Jimmy and Dee Haslam, who already have a whole lot of dollars to build a stadium that, frankly, we in the region of Cuyahoga County have opposed, because we think that there's a better way, and that way is to stay downtown like they did at Paycor Field with the Bengals in downtown Cincinnati, and not have to double down on new infrastructure, not have to disrupt Ohio's largest airport, busiest airport. And for us, we think that this is a day where we're seeing legislators who seem for the moment to not be listening to their locals and their local partners. Not everybody, but those in leadership. And we need a better partnership.
Republican leaders also added in kind of something that might have been a surprise, changed the Modell law, which is the law that keeps professional teams who are playing in publicly funded stadiums from moving out of state. They said that this just clarifies and says that moving is about not moving out of state, but you can move within a county. Do you feel this settles the lawsuits that are still out there over this move?
Well, I think this is a tragic comedy in Ohio, and emphasize comedy. I mean, it must be nice to be a defendant like Haslam Sports Group in a local case at the Court of Common Pleas, to be a defendant and to decide under the cover of night to go down to the legislature to get the law that you're actually fighting in context in the local courts with and get it changed. Must be nice. We in Ohio, if we all had that privilege to be able to move out from a court case that we're involved in as a defendant, and go to the legislature and say, hey, change the law for me, would you? Seems to be what happened, and again, for us, it's just another move that seems to end run good local process, and frankly, overall, the institutions that embody our democracy here, which is, our courts. I mean, this seems like something that just end run a local case that's live and active in Judge Lauren Moore's courtroom.
This is a law that really affects the big cities because this is where the professional sports teams are.
I mean, it's illogical from the get-go. Look, we know it was designed specifically to help Jimmy and Dee Haslam move the Browns to Brook Park, but now everybody suffers. If I'm in Hamilton County and I've got to re-up on a lease with the Cincinnati Reds, hey, maybe they go to Toledo to become the city of Cincinnati Reds. In Toledo, maybe the Mud Hens say, hey, we want to be in Sandusky, and maybe out in, you name it. Maybe any one of our major sports and minor sports teams now are in play under this new Modell law. And it's a race to the bottom. It's a race to communities sort of fighting against one another, rather than the state really understanding that it's big cities matter. And really, to me, it's anti-city, it's anti-urban, it's anti-community in terms of what we're trying to do. I mean, people do enjoy finding their way to the downtowns to discover what's downtown. And, whether that's, in Cincinnati with the Bengals and the Reds, or whether that's here in Cleveland with the Cavaliers and the Guardians and the Browns. And we're losing one, but this law was designed to accommodate one, but it has this, impact, this attendant impact that actually hits every community, is going to put them in the same problem we've been in Northeast Ohio, which is in this race to the bottom over poaching. And, who can create the best deal for the owner and, frankly, the worst deal for their electorate. And in that race to the bottom, maybe lose a team or gain a team, but nobody wins because it's poaching from one to the next.
What does the budget do with the sin tax?
Again, this is a bill that came down from on high to us, exactly opposite of what we had requested. I think we're in an era where local government, local control, home rule authority is being bypassed and preempted by the legislature from on high to say, we know better than you. So what did they do? In the case of Cleveland, where we have the Guardians, the Cavs, and the Browns, and we really need, in those first two cases, to attend to facilities that are older than the Browns Stadium, than Huntington Bank Field that the Browns are in now. We've got two facilities housing the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Cleveland Guardians that are older than the Browns facility that the Browns are all of a sudden leaving to go to Brook Park. So those two facilities, we asked the legislature to help us adjust what was voted on by the electorate of Cuyahoga County back in 1990, which was to help support the Gateway model. And folks and fans from around Ohio know this. You come up to see a Cavs game or a Guardians game, you're in this beautiful complex called Gateway. Well, Gateway's getting old now. It was built in the mid-90s, and 30 years later, we need some improvement dollars. So we asked the legislature to give us, at the Cuyahoga County, the local option to levy a adjustment to the original sin tax from 1990. And we asked for it for these two teams. And here came the Cleveland Browns and run us and got themselves linked into the bill. And then what came down from on high is not what we asked for in terms of the dollars needed and capacity to actually get the job done. So they carved out half as much as we actually needed, added a team, which diluted further the opportunity to work with voters to get our two facilities at the Cavs and the Guards fixed. They put the Browns in the mix, and then they prescribed that it shall only be those three teams, which puts us out of the ability to sort of court other teams in through that financial opportunity, like a soccer team. So it's a triple loss for us, and we're going to have to go back to the drawing board. It is not worth us putting on the ballot what they enabled.
The $600 million grant in this budget is only half the public money the Haslams were hoping for. The Haslam said in a statement today, this premier facility will anchor a major lifestyle and entertainment development and will be a catalyst for one of Northeast Ohio's largest economic development projects ever, and something our community will be proud of and can enjoy for years to come. Is it a done deal that this is going to be built as the plan? It's not just going to be a dome stadium. It's going to be a dome stadium and housing and retail. Do we know what the final project's going to look like?
Well, we say to the Haslam Sports Group, if you're so confident about the statement you just read off that they gave to you, then pay for it. Pay for it. Pay for it out of your own pocket. Don't fleece the public on a deal that we've deemed too risky, that the Legislative Service Commission of Ohio advised the legislature itself is too risky, that the Office of Budget and Management advised the governor and the legislature it's too risky. And we're the only ones who apparently are taking the advice of the fiscal analyst that it's too risky. So what I say to Haslam Sports Group, if you're going to do it, pay for it out of pocket. But frankly, we hope you don't. We hope you come back to downtown Cleveland, to a place that has the infrastructure to support sports, has the appeal of three sports teams within walking distance of one another, which is a national model that cities like Detroit looked at when they brought the Pistons and the Lions back downtown. We were the national model, and now we're walking away from our own national model. But as the Browns walk away to Brook Park, Haslam Sports is going to have to pull out of their own pocket the balance of the funding. But it gets worse because we have Ohio's busiest airport across the street. And on State Route 237, it's going to be a massive a log jam on any given Sunday day or any concert night or any big event when 75,000 people are trying to get in and out of a stadium facility on the same road where people are trying to get into the airport and out of the airport. We've got a problem, Houston, and it's right here in Cleveland, Ohio at Hopkins Airport.
Are you planning on going to this Sports and Cultural Facilities Fund with that $350 million request that you had for the Brown Stadium in downtown?
Not at this time. I mean, what I see is our Cavs and our Guards got bypassed by the legislature in this cycle, and we need to help them. So for my money, I'm really looking to help our Cavs and Guards get their facilities refurbished. Not to mention, look, we need some help from the legislature on some local sports facilities for our local kids and things of that nature. Now, that might be something that we can talk to the legislature about, drawing through some of those funds on. But I think at the end of the day, This was a really, really curious cycle in the budget. Haslam Sports went to the legislature, and basically the legislative leaders said, whatever we can find for you, we're going to find for you. So they found our unclaimed funds. And, to me, that was a very curious source to find, because it's the people's money. It's not Jimmy and Dee Haslam's money. But they found it. They offered it. Now they got half the loaf. But the idea has been half-baked from the beginning. And I'm saying to them, if you want to finish this loaf, you've got to come up with the money for your other side of the loaf. Look, but don't do it. Stay in downtown Cleveland, where you'll have a chorus of people who will say, thanks for coming back, be a part of something bigger than you. Instead, we're going to be dealing with decades of infrastructure investments necessary to make the airport whole, who is the unintended, or maybe they didn't care at Haslam Sports Group, but the real victim in this is the airport operations itself at Cleveland Hopkins Airport. Not to mention, I don't think this is well thought out for our communities locally. You've got safety operations issues. In any given Sunday, it takes 100 police officers to man a football game in the NFL. Well, City of Cleveland has that infrastructure with over 1,100 officers. City of Brook Park has 35 officers. You do the math. How are you going to actually service this? And this would be true if a team left any major city to go to any other place. And that's what the Modell law in its now new configuration presents, is the opportunity for any city in Ohio to poach another city from Ohio, but not have thought through the operations, logistics, safety, and infrastructure needs. And it's a race to the bottom that's going to cost Ohio taxpayers for a long time. Thank Jimmy and Dee Haslam, Ohio, for that. You can thank them for getting what they want, and the rest of us got, what.
Is the relationship between you and the Browns completely broken here? Is there any room for compromise? What's that look like now?
Look, I'm a Browns fan in the player sense. I want to see our Cleveland Browns do well. I'll always be rooting for them. But as far as the narrative goes from Haslam Sports Group, it has been one repeated misstatement after the next. This is not economic development. It's economic extraction. It's poaching of jobs from one place to the next. It's not additive, to their point. It's taking away from the strength of downtown by replacing in a very vulnerable market housing, office space, and hotel space that's already downtown and is struggling downtown just to stay viable downtown. I always reference my favorite little restaurant down in the Flats, the Flatiron Cafe, where at that cafe that shuttles families to games, be it the Guardians, the Cavs, or the Browns, and in that Flatiron Cafe, appreciate the sign in there that says, please, Haslams, don't make us shuttle our fans to Brook Park. These are restaurants and bars that have invested in downtown, being a part of the visitor infrastructure of downtown, and they've seen now a major anchor turn their back on them and walk away from them just for parking gains and a sea of surface parking around a stadium. And to your question about what happens next with the development, I don't know if it all happens the way that they've said. What our analysts have said, and again, what LSC and OBM have said, is that it's risky. I don't know if they pull off the housing that they're promoting. I don't know if people want to be on a balcony watching a 747 go over their head. They can't hear one another, and they're barbecuing out with jet fumes spewing in the air. I don't know if that's the place where people are going to spend top of market dollars to live. I don't know if they're going to get all the retail activity that they say they're going to get. Again, this is a environment where we're trying to support what's working, and this to us is just a dilution of that and really a zero-sum game at best.
Just before the budget was signed, the Haslam Sports Group completed its purchase of 176 acres that used to be the Ford Motor Company site in Brook Park for $76 million. The lease on Huntington Bank Field in downtown Cleveland expires in 2028.